How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm a little tired, but end of year tired. Ooh, sorry, cat feeder.
That's
There
fine.
you
Yeah.
go. See, that's why if I'm not home, it gets fed.
Is that automatic or how does that
It
work?
is. It's an
Oh,
automatic timered cat feeder because again, if I'm not home,
yeah. Somebody gets to
somebody's
feed the
not.
cat.
It's easier. Also, if we go out of town, it's just programmed.
Yeah. Well, school year. How's the school year going?
This is my last week. We're in finals mode, so yeah, tomorrow's my
Yeah.
final, and it's the last final officially.
Yeah.
And then we have makeup days for any kid who was, out for whatever reason.
Yeah. So how would you say your school year overall has gone? Since the last time we talked.
Look, it was fine. I mean, nothing. It was fine. The kids are the kids. The issues are the same.
Yeah.
For me, I think I put it out there right in the commentary of TikTok worlds, but it's I'm curious to have a dialogue with fellow educators because for 20 this is my 24th year teaching
Hmm.
middle school, right, straight up middle school.
Yeah.
I've noticed change definitely this year, and I would say probably I've noticed a change in the last couple of years
Mm.
in terms of students being students. So we've all if ever, all of us have taught, right? So you have the kids that are on top of it. They almost don't need any. I'm talking middle school experience, right? Obviously
Yes. Yeah.
elementary is a little different. We still have to guide them, but middle school wise, I have kids that are on top of it. They got the due dates, they finish homework, they come ready, right? And then the middle, which is a little bit of everything. Sometimes they're on it, sometimes they're not, sometimes they get better steadily,
Mm.
mixture of a lot of things. And then I have on this end kids, regardless of learning differences, just kids that it's the middle school years are those years where they're figuring it out. Some are a little bit more, I call it academically mature,
Yeah.
maybe because their parents through elementary school, along with other educators, have helped guide. This is how you get ready. This is how you organize. So I've had these extremes, right? I'm noticing there's a lot more on this side now. Where homework seems to be an option.
Yeah.
It's not really, and they don't mean any, again, my theory, it's not personal. I
Yeah.
never take it personal. So it's like there's this optional side to homework and, even reaching out to parents. Yeah, there's a sprinkle of the ones that are like, oh, we will talk to him or her tonight. Thank you for letting us know. And then you have crickets, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So for me, again, because I don't take it personal, right?
Yeah.
For 24 years I've taught, and for 24 years I've had to adjust, pivot, tweak. Phones were a thing, and I had to rethink how to teach with technology. Whereas some people fought technology for a while until I went, fine, we'll
Yeah.
try it, right? I'm not that person, and I'm at a point right now where I'm like, what do I need to do? Like that's my homework this summer is how do I still educate my students without maybe putting so much emphasis on the homework because I feel we're at a point where there's a change coming.
Hmm.
I feel that change just like we felt it with technology where, again, people were trying to keep it out of the classroom, but it eventually made its way in whether we wanted it or not. I feel that same vibe right now with this approach to homework, right? And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not saying I'm right either in terms of like we should still have it. But I do think there needs to be something happening where there's still accountability, right? There still should be accountability of some sort. There should be a skill being taught in terms of, let's say, responsibility, right? I'm
Yeah.
assigning you this. But at the end of the day, I go, what's my goal? My goal as a teacher, I'll focus in my category is obviously I want them to learn some Spanish because I teach Spanish, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Along with in the process, I've always done life lessons, like be a good person.
Yeah.
I've taken those little moments, those learning moments, right in the classroom. But that's where I'm at, and I want to have a conversation with people. Like I would love to have a room full of educators going, "What's going on? Are you feeling this way?" What are we doing? Are we going to fight it? Are we going to lose that fight? Like just dialogue,
Yeah.
right? And I have people at work, colleagues, like world languages or department, right? And they feel the same way, but I don't know that anybody really knows what to do, right?
Yeah.
So,
So when I taught middle school, this had to been like, I don't know, like 14 years ago or something like that. It was a while back. I taught middle school for 6 years. I
mhm.
taught middle school for 6 years. And I came from, elementary school. And in elementary school, we give homework, right? We give
Mhm.
homework. It's like 20 minutes reading log. I remember giving like a math sheet and an ELA sheet, and there was homework. And this is public education.
Sure, sure.
And then I go to middle school, and I'm in this area, and it's a rough area. It's a really rough area. It's, if you know it, it's the Pico Union area.
I
Very
was
rough area. You got 18th
I
Street.
went to Union Elementary School, so
You
yes,
went
very
to Union Elementary School, you said.
familiar.
Okay, so now you know. Okay, so a little further down
Mhm,
is a school called John Lathy Middle School. It's a newer school,
mhm,
and it's in the that area right there. And uh, I remember trying to give homework the first year I was there, and
mhm.
this was like, I don't know, 14 years ago. And I noticed that the homework wasn't being turned in, and I tried to fight it. I tried to fight it and be like, "No, I'm gonna dock your grade. I'm gonna dock your grade."
Right.
And then it was like a battle I couldn't win. And this was 14 years ago in
Sure.
this area.
Yeah, for
And it was
different reasons, I'm sure, right?
yeah, it was like, oh, I don't have any help at home. I
Right.
don't see my parents.
I
I
hear
don't see
you.
my parents. I don't
Or
have
I'm
any help
taking
at
care of my
home.
little brothers and sisters because my parents work all day. Yeah.
hmm
Mhm.
And so I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna give you homework, and I'm expecting that when you go home, you're gonna get help, and then you come back, and you're gonna be smarter because you did the
Mhm.
homework, got help at home. But that wasn't the case. I give you homework, and then there's no one to help you, and then you don't do it because, or you write down numbers on this math sheet. You just write down whatever,
Right.
and you just turn it in. And you're like, here's the homework, and there was no real learning. And so 14 years ago, I was like, screw it. I ain't giving homework. I'm not giving math homework at all, because that makes no sense at all. So 14 years ago, I stopped giving homework,
Mhm.
math homework, and I was like, because it just wasn't working in
Right.
this environment.
Right.
And the environment that I was working out of, it just wasn't working. It was causing more frustration, and it was causing, more anxiety for the kids. And, I was like, forget it. You know what? I'm going to do the best I can in this classroom for whatever amount of time. And,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So I abandoned homework a long time ago.
And I think maybe where I'm a little stuck on myself is I give homework, but I'll also be. I mean, so I work at a school that is considered a college prep, right? It's a college
Mhm.
preparatory. So there's this expectation that we're prepping them for college, which I always laugh at because, for
Yeah.
instance, listen, I'm a dean, and I know
Yeah.
there's a dress code, but there was no dress code in my college.
hmm
Literally, people rolled out of bed and went to class.
hmm
So we're sitting here going, "You must be in dress code." I'm like, "They don't know how to be in dress code when they get to college," but whatever.
Yeah.
Sidetrack that. However, I know there's an expectation in terms of us prepping them for college. I get that.
Yeah.
My job's prepping them for high school, right? And so I don't give out much homework. And I think that's where I've hooked myself on is that unlike other subjects where they, I guess my kids, speaking from my kids' perspective, not me, obviously, they feel bombarded with, right? Oh my God, I got to read 2 chapters and annotate and do the history thing, and so I always go, well, here's a worksheet. Like, here's one worksheet in Spanish, and I tend to stop teaching about 10 minutes ish before class ends so they could start. I
Yeah.
can walk around, see how they're doing it, right? And they're going on the right track. But maybe that's where I'm hooked on is like I already feel I don't give them that much. So then I feel like maybe how hard is it to get my homework done when I only give you one worksheet?
Yeah.
you know I have been pondering not doing homework. My homework policy is, I guess, technically, um grading for completion, not grading for accuracy. I want you to go home and I want you to try, and I don't want you to be afraid to make mistakes,
Yeah.
right? And that's
Yeah.
worked for a long time. This year hasn't. I've literally gotten kids that either don't do it or write just nonsense because they think I'm just going to see writing and I'm going to like let it
hmm
go. So yeah, I've been leaning on, do I change the policy now? Do I grade for accuracy, which would be more work for everybody? Or do I just not do homework or not do it often? Make a day in my class where it's like, I don't know, like I'll say homework day, where what we do in class is a lot of worksheets, but that seems boring. I don't know. I'm trying to figure my life out,
Yeah.
right?
And you are in a different circumstance than I'm teaching out of, or I'm at right now, or I taught out of, whatever, several years ago. Um, and I could see the dilemma. I could see that. I feel like if I was in your circumstance, then, and this might sound wrong, but like the school that you're teaching out of, right? The kids could get tutors. They could hire tutors.
Not everybody,
Not
not
everybody.
everybody. I'll say that my school is they're very generous to allow and provide for families that cannot afford the full tuition, right? My
Yeah.
goddaughter attends that school, and there's no way my best friend and her husband can afford that tuition. It really takes a village. If they've
Yeah.
covered tuition that month and she happens to need, new shoes, I got the shoes, don't worry,
Yeah.
especially during the school year when we have to buy the books. So not everyone, not every family. We do have kids and families that are middle class, I'll say, but not and lower than that, like kids that came from, I mean, we've literally have kids have come from South LA to come to our school. And so no, not every family,
Okay.
and that's another reality, right? Is that
Yeah.
I and when I first started there, yes, I felt a little bit of, this is my young 20, my 20-year-old, 20 years there, but like, I felt like, oh man, you guys are so lucky. I
Yeah.
came from this place that I had to
Yeah.
like, get on. Yeah, I lived in, I don't know if you know where Dogtown is or by
Yeah. Oh
Chinatown,
yeah.
right? I lived in the housing projects there, but I went to Garfield, so I had to get on the bus and take two buses and get off, right? And
Hmm.
so,
Hmm.
um, but I realize now, not every kid has that luxury, and quite frankly, even some of our kids that are, I'll say, well off, sometimes their parents are too busy. Just like you said, it's interesting, right? I've had to learn that in my experience there, that the money doesn't make it the connection, right? Sometimes
Hmm.
parents are still absent, or sometimes parents have to be absent because they
Yeah.
are the only ones providing at that moment for their child. And so, no, not every kid can have a
So
tutor.
yeah. So what I hear, and what I think it's put the high standards that you want to place on kids. That's important. Like
Mm-hmm.
saying, like, okay, you know what, this is the standard that we're going to try to reach, right? This is the standard that we're going to try to reach. And I know that at the school that I work at, you know, we have a big push, and it's always like, let's be on grade level.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be on grade level, and we have these I-ready tests, and we're trying to get everybody on grade level. That's a big thing. And like, and it's not even like these, it's sad, it's not like we have these extremely high standards, like you got to be 2 grades above grade level, or hey, let's just get to grade level.
Yeah.
You're in fourth grade, and you're reading at a kindergarten level, and we need you to, let's bump 1 grade level. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have standards, and I guess for them in this situation, they're high standards, because if you're in kindergarten, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, if you're in fourth grade and you're reading at a kindergarten level, telling the child you have to bump up 2 grade levels, in my mind, that's high standards.
It's crazy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like, okay, you got to bump up 2 grade levels. That's pretty hard. That's
Mm-hmm.
high standards. So I think it depends on the circumstance. I think it depends on the area. It depends on the kid. It depends on, so I think that in general you want to put high standards, right? But I'm sure, like, in other areas, maybe not yours, other areas, there are kids that are on grade level. They're
Mm-hmm.
in fourth graders that read on fourth grade level, and it's like, okay, let's get you to a fifth grade level. Let's get you a sixth
Mm-hmm.
grade level. Let's have you read at this. And so, um, like, I just feel like what I'm hearing from you is that you are trying to place high standards on the kids that you serve, and there's some sort of dip, and you're questioning, what's going on, or what do I do?
Yeah, I mean, but I think I have also been questioning for a few years now the education system as a whole, right? Whether it's public or private, we kind of have this, like, I'll say, archaic almost way of teaching where
We
it's
do.
been done for decades the
We
same kind
do.
of way.
Hmm.
It's like, is this still the right way to do it? And I don't know, maybe I'm kind of out there in the outside of the norm, but for a while I felt a little like, are we still teach, like, school
Yeah.
starts at a certain time? I mean, and listen, I get it. We can't change to some degree school starting, right? Studies have shown that starting later would be best because these kids actually need more sleep, but the working families can't do that because who's going to
Hmm.
drop off the kid and who's going to, and so, but even with that, like I've wondered for a few years now, the way we're teaching is very just antiquated in some ways,
So
right?
like, yeah, so like, I guess what's changed at our school is everybody has a device. So everybody has a
Hmm.
device, and all of our tests are on the device, and everybody can look at the data. This is for us, all everybody can look at the
Hmm.
data, and we track the data. And I don't see too much paper and pencil in the classroom. I go visit classrooms. I see a
Hmm.
lot of people on the device, and they're typing, they're doing PowerPoints, they're reading on a device, and they're being
Hmm.
taught by the device. And sometimes there's these like videos that they watch. They watch a video, and then the video's teaching them. It's not necessarily
Hmm.
the classroom teacher, having them take notes like in the
Like
past. The
Khan
classroom
Academy kind
teacher,
of thing.
yeah, like that.
Hmm.
So it's, yeah, exactly. So the computer is feeding them the information,
Hmm.
and so in that sense, I see that, and then I'm like, okay, is that good?
Hmm.
Is that better? Is that better than taking notes and paper and pencil, interacting with people?
Hmm.
Is sitting in front of a device and the device teaching you something? Is that better than how it used to be?
No, and I think there's a happy medium between both, right? I
Yeah.
think that I don't think depending solely on the tech is the way. And I witnessed that in the classrooms at my own school, where individuals just really depend on everything being online.
Yeah,
And by the way, that could be very successful
you could.
if it's implemented and run appropriately. What I find is a lot of times teachers just kind of feel like, okay, it's the computer's issue now. I'm just gonna sit back and watch this happen. But we go back to what's something that matters to you and I a lot. I don't think you connect with kids that way. I don't think
Mm-mm,
you make those connections, and
mm-mm.
I can only speak for sort of my school. That's not a mandate. That's a teacher choice at that point. We have this beautiful opportunity at my school where, I teach seventh grade Spanish, let's say, with two other teachers,
Yeah,
and we meet and we go here. The goal is to get them to take this final that we're currently in the middle of, right? And I'm gonna quiz on this topic this day, and I'm gonna test by this day. Cool, cool. All right. How we each present that information to our kids is not dictated, which is
hmm,
beautiful because
yeah,
even for me, every class is different. My period C is different from my period F, and I have to handle that classroom differently
yeah,
than the other. And so that's neat, but at the same time, becomes a little bit dangerous when you go to the other extreme, which is, let me just put
here's
a
the device.
form, go do this thing online. Maybe I'll give you homework and I'll correct it, and watch this video to learn the lesson. Right? It kind of loses that connection with the teacher.
Yes,
Right?
you lose that personal touch.
So I think there's some happy medium. I think what I was talking about in terms of antiquated, I don't even mean the technology. I mean the way we teach, right? Like me standing in front of a room, blah 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 for 40 minutes, and then again, upper grades, right? Because elementary school
Hmm.
is a little different. You have to sort of teach a little bit, practice. Let's go over it a little bit, practice, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just don't know if we in education are if we're just a little behind in how we should move forward with these kids, right? Because I also don't, sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like they expect this like entertainer, like, hey,
Yeah.
look at me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you get their attention, because of technology.
Because of tech. Yeah.
Attention span is like this big, right? and
Hmm.
and and getting bored easily. They're not engaged. It's not fun. If I was a quick swipe, they probably just move on to the next TikTok reel. Right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just kids are a little different for me now.
So telephones, right? Like if you have a cell phone, that's such a. So I got like, I don't know, second graders, first graders, they have cell phones, right? I remember when when I was, my kids, I was like, okay, when you're in middle school, I'll get you a cell phone. When you're in
Mm-hmm.
middle school, I'll get you a cell phone, and you're gonna use that to just call and get me, come, Dad, come pick me
Pick
up.
me up.
Yeah,
Can I stay
that kind
late?
of deal. That's it, and
Mhm.
that's when you get a cell phone, like in middle school. I feel like that's when you get one. But now I got little first graders, little second graders that have cell phones, and they're in their pockets, and they're walking around. I'm like, hey, what do you got in your pocket? Oh, it's a cell. Come here, let me see that cell phone. Let's put it away. And that to me is crazy. And so like, and they're on TikTok and they're on YouTube Reels, and they're, they have access to that. And um that has shaped the school culture tremendously,
Mhm.
tremendously. The short attention spans,
Mhm.
the different like memes that they see on TikTok or Instagram, and then they use them at school, or they say the same phrases they saw on social media, right?
Mhm.
um the same, it's just shaped the culture of the school. So I feel like if you're trying to learn anything, you're trying to teach anybody anything, it's going to be in this little small little box. And that's how kids and people in general are learning. Like, if I wanted to learn a recipe, I'm not going to get a cookbook.
No.
I am not getting a cookbook, and I'm not going to Google it either. I'm going to go on TikTok and be like, how do you make this?
Guilty.
Right? How do
Yeah.
you make this?
Yeah.
Boom. And I find, oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Mhm.
Or like if, I want to find a little bit of news. I saw something. Oh, like, let me just look it up on here. Woman president, Mexican woman president. Oh, let me find out about it. Little clips about it. Oh, boom, 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 boom. Okay, that's what she stands for. Oh, she won by a landslide. Okay. Oh, and so like everything is in this little box. Our
Mhm.
whole world is in this one little box, and that has shaped, like, our whole culture. It's crazy.
Yeah.
If we were to allow our kids to just pull out their phones during recess time, everybody would.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, nobody would play kickball, nobody would play anything. They would all just like
Yep. We
boom.
changed our rule. It used to be I'm on a 712 campus.
Mm,
And so it was just easier to be like, okay, let's make the same rule for everybody, which was, at lunch and at break, you could have your phones. And we changed that this year. We were like, no, middle schoolers cannot have their phones, period.
yeah,
Of course, some of them still try and all that, but for the most part, it's so nice to see them interact and run around like kids, like they're chasing each other. And
yeah,
but last year it would be like, and they're talking or they're playing games with each other, but they're just kind of just not
yeah.
really interacting in person. Such a different vibe.
Just
It,
like if you're at your home, like if you're at your home, because this, I'm guilty of this. We all want to veg out. We all want to veg out, so we're all in the living room.
mm,
TV's on. Everybody has their cell phone.
mhm,
So you're like everybody's watching the same show, but then you're like, oh, and this, and let me play a game, and let me go ahead and answer this, and oh, the show, oh, and but you're not really focused on anything.
right.
You're completely distracted,
Mhm,
and so you're watching this show, but then you're
mhm,
checking this and you're playing that, and that's not like how it used to be, where everybody sits and watches a movie together. Like,
mhm,
that doesn't really happen anymore. Like, I
right.
remember sitting with my family, like, okay, today, what do you guys want to watch? Oh, okay, let's watch this. Let's get some ice cream, some popcorn. We're all gonna watch this movie.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, we
That does,
we we live by that. Like when I get home, my phone's put somewhere else.
that's
I
good.
don't touch it so that we are interacting as best we can at home. Sometimes it has to be near me, and I'll explain why, to my
Yeah,
partner. But for the most part, or when the whole family's here for birthdays or holidays, we politely ask, "Can you make sure
yeah.
you guys don't aren't your phones?" Because it's just so automatic for everybody. The minute we are bored, we want to just pick
It's
it
so
up and
easy.
find an entertaining moment.
It's
And I
so
think
easy.
that's something that kids have to deal with, right? I mean, again, I'm not against the technology. I think it's great and I think it's a powerful device. And
Yeah.
I think like with any like what is it, Spider-Man with great power comes great responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
right? But at the same time, I think that teaching kids to deal with being bored, quote unquote, is helpful because you that's where creativity came in. I mean, do you
Yes.
remember being a kid and maybe you were bored and all of a
Yes.
sudden you just were like, I'm gonna grab that stick and
Yep.
that ball and that rope and I'm gonna figure out how to make something
You
pretty
come up
cool.
with a
And you would.
game, you do something. Yeah.
We're gonna come up with a new game, right? Like we just were bored. I remember we were playing like sock dodgeball because we had all
Yeah.
this laundry folded, right?
Yeah.
That's where the creativity kicks in and we have to like almost let kids be bored. I think adults are afraid of that because then we then need to entertain them, is kind of maybe the fear, like, oh, I don't want to deal with it. So, right, so
Yeah.
let me just slap on the TV on for you, or let me just give you my tablet or my phone.
So
But
when I was growing up, and you too probably, it was like, okay, go play.
mhm,
Go play. The adults are here. Adults are over here, and you guys are gonna go play. And I was like, cool. I'll be gone all day long. I'll be gone from 8 a.m. to like
mhm,
8 p.m. You won't see me all
sundown.
day long.
Mhm.
And I'm good, and we don't need to interact really. I'll come and eat. I'll use the restroom. I'll go back outside.
Your cold
Yeah,
water.
yeah. So like that's how it was for us growing up, and then the next generation, my kids are
Mhm,
like, okay, it's a little unsafe, so I can't just let my kids be out from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's not okay. And
mhm.
I probably want to teach them some things, and so I need to be there with them and for them and show them things and help them out. And so they became a little more reliant on parents like
Yeah,
dad and mom.
yeah.
And now it's like,
Right.
okay, here's a device.
It's
Here.
almost tighter but looser at the same
Yeah,
time, right?
yeah.
So like you and
Mhm,
I being out in the streets all day, to some degree, was because our parents didn't want us around. Let's be
mhm,
real.
mhm.
They didn't want us bothering them. Ay, como chingas, vete para allá,
Mhm,
whatever,
mhm.
right?
Yeah,
So part of that was them not wanting to deal with us, go be outside. And they probably were raised that way, like in some
yeah,
kind of way also. Cool, whatever. You and I, we kind of wanted to interact with our adults in some, like the moments we did sometimes were really fun. I
yeah,
remember family parties.
yeah.
They were always fun because they couldn't get rid of us. We had to be there. And, it was just enjoyable. So for you, you also realize, oh, interacting with my kid is really important. I want to actually have a conversation with them.
Mhm.
How's it going? What are you
Yeah.
up to? What do you
Check
like?
check in.
Right? Check in. Absolutely. And maybe as they got older, you allowed a little, more space between you and them in terms of where they could be, how long they could be, right?
Mhm.
But like now, at least the parents I find, I don't know about the parents you find, it's like they don't let them go anywhere, but they also don't talk to them either. And they're like, here's your phone, go play a video game, go watch TV. So like they're tighter in that they're always with them, but like
Mhm.
looser in that they're not really interacting, I find sometimes,
Yeah,
right? Have you gone to restaurants and like
yeah,
all of the kids are on a phone or a tablet, and the parent themselves is on a phone, and
yeah,
I'm just like, you guys gonna talk to each other? Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. And
it's
that's a real
crazy.
problem. And so,
Mhm.
back to school and how things have changed, so this is the homes that they're coming out of. They're coming out of this, and we wonder why kids don't know have social problems. We wonder why kids have anxiety. We wonder
Right,
why kids can't get along with other kids, or they don't
right,
have
all of
any
that.
they don't know how to regulate their emotions, or
Hmm.
they were never taught good character. We wonder why all these things, right? And
Right,
it's, well, they're not interacting with anybody really. They're not, and they're seeing horrible things on social media,
right,
horrible things. It's
right.
like social media is a trip because like on Instagram, let's just take Instagram,
Sure.
right? So you're watching Instagram reels, and the minute you spend a little bit of time on some horrible video, that's all you get. All you get is whatever this horrible video is. So
Yeah,
they're
your
like,
algorithm kicks it.
yeah, it just changes all of a sudden. Like, there was a point where I was watching like crashes, terrible
Mhm.
crashes, on the freeway. People were dying. I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. And then I watched the whole video, and then the next swipe was like another terrible crash. Like somebody
Yeah,
died again. I was like, oh my
yeah.
God.
Mhm.
And I just fell into this, like, the algorithm was like, oh, you like to watch horrible crashes on the freeway.
Mhm.
We're gonna feed you
Mhm.
horrible crashes on the freeway.
Mhm.
And that's what happens to all the kids, right? The algorithm feeds them this negativity.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And then they come into our schools and we wonder why they
They're like
misbehave.
desensitized, right? Like to some degree, like to this bad stuff.
Yeah.
They're it's like, yeah, I don't know. Do you remember being a kid and hearing Faces of Death? Do you remember
Hmm.
that? And
Hmm.
I mean, I think I maybe watched one of the
I
movies
watched
that
it.
they made, right?
I
And
watched
that
it.
thing was like, I mean, I love scary movies, don't get me wrong, but that was real, or at least it felt real.
It was,
I've
yeah.
heard rumors. I've heard rumors that
That
maybe
it
not
was
all
fake,
true, but
whatever.
yeah, but
Okay,
like
so
it looked real. And
okay, so
so
go
so
ahead.
I think that, I think part of that is also like, they don't, they also see videos, going back to what you're talking about, or reels or shorts if you're on YouTube, where it seems that people are acting a certain way with other people, And a lot of those times those are like setups, or
Mhm.
they're these individuals that want to be influencers and they create their skits or whatever to get known. And it's like that's not how you really talk to people. Like my kids at the age they're at don't understand this is not real, right?
Mhm.
Hate to break it to you, but we don't talk to people this way, right? And
Yeah.
so there's I a lot of what I do is having those conversations with them about like, okay, I get that you feel you're right, but you still don't get to talk to people that way, or you still don't get to react to people that way. But
Mhm.
that's kind of what they're used to, or that's what they assume is real life, right?
Yeah.
And so it's helping them understand that a lot.
Yeah. So let's take that Faces of Death video. Whoever is older will remember that video, right?
Yeah.
And whether it's true or not, right? There was like these short little things of people dying, right? And you had to go out of your way to find a VHS tape, or like I don't know, somebody had it, somebody had a
Somebody had it
copy,
somewhere. Yep.
right? So you had to go out of your way, you had to search for it, you had to bring it back to the house, you had to make sure nobody, your parents aren't around.
Underground.
Yeah. You pop that thing in and you just kind of watch, I don't know, like an hour long, and maybe there was like 6 short videos.
Hmm.
Hour long, 6 short videos explained. There's one was like eating monkey brains. They banged on the monkey's head, whatever.
Hmm.
You take a phone and you flip, and you just saw 6 murders
Hmm.
in 6 minutes. And you didn't have to do it. You didn't have to go anywhere. You're in the comfort of your house.
Hmm.
You're right there, like with the phone facing you, and you're like, I just saw
Yep.
6 people die. I
Yep.
saw 6 people die. And now, what do I? What? How do I understand that? Like, what? You know, you just watched 6 videos of somebody arguing with a cop, and they got into a fight and they were arguing their way out of it, and
Mhm,
they were like against police authority. You're like,
mhm,
oh, okay, against authority, got it. That's
mhm.
how it's done.
Or you watch your favorite athlete argue with a ref or with
Yep.
their coach, throw a fit, throw a chair across the
Yes.
the court. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then you come to school, you got all these ideas because you're learning from your phone. You're
Hmm.
learning from your phone. This is like we said earlier. When I want to find some information, I'm gonna go into my phone and I'm gonna be like, oh, Google it, whatever. And then they come to school and they have all these thoughts, all these crazy thoughts, and that's where you have these kids kind of exploding in the classroom, and throwing chairs, or just banging the wall,
Hmm.
throwing a tantrum like they saw on social media, right?
Hmm.
Like, and they don't know how to regulate their emotions,
Right.
and they're confused, and now what?
Hmm.
That's how it is now.
Hmm.
And like, okay, now what do we do about that? Like, that's my thing. Like, okay, well, what do
Hmm.
we do about that? As a assistant principal, you're in this school. How do you help these kids deal with all of this and
Hmm.
still run a school where keep an environment where teachers want to stay?
Hmm.
Because teacher could be like, screw this. Like, I don't need to deal with this. Like, this
Right.
is ridiculous.
Right.
The staff, the supervision staff, like, nah, these kids are disrespectful. It
Hmm.
wasn't like that when I was growing up. Screw this, I'm out.
Hmm.
How do, as a team, how do you keep your staff and your teachers from leaving?
You laugh as you say
uh,
it.
it's a real question I have with myself.
I
Like, I'm
know.
like,
I can imagine. I can imagine. Again, you and I had this conversation last time.
yeah,
People on, some of the things we probably get in our algorithm is a lot of teachers saying they're leaving, or they record themselves telling their class, "Hey guys, I'm not coming back even next week. Forget next year. Like
yeah,
I won't be here next week because
yeah,
they're bouncing." Um, I don't. I think it goes back to I think generationally, people are, I think to some degree, still expect young people to treat them with a certain level of respect, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't disagree with that.
Hmm.
I think the issue sometimes, not every time, is that the young people that we are now dealing with, and I don't know about elementary school, but at least for my age group, they're very aware of, I'll say fairness, and I'll
Hmm.
say I want to say justice, but maybe that's not the right word. Where they're a little bit, and I think I can relate to that because I think I felt that way when I was a kid. Like, why do I have to respect you when you don't seem to respect me?
Yeah.
Right. So, again, for us, there's a no phone policy. Right. So if they are on their phones, I walk over there very calmly and I just put out my hand. I don't argue. I don't make a scene. And I'm like, you're not supposed to be on your phone. And they're like, yeah, thanks, Miss H. Get it at the end of the day. Yeah, get it at the end of the day. Right.
Yeah.
Versus there are teachers that have, as the kid is very deep in their scroll, snatch, just. And for some kids, because
Trigger.
again, that's
Trigger.
just not every kid at my school is, I mean, by the way, they're human, right? I wouldn't my if my
Yeah.
boss snatched my phone like that, I'd have a reaction
Yeah.
to my boss, right?
Hmm.
So in those cases, yeah, the kid gets upset and they're like, hey, right? They react. And in that situation, for instance, the adult gets very beside themselves that this kid was disrespectful. Well, when I come to find out, you snatched the phone off their hand. You kind of started off disrespectful.
Yeah.
I think these kids are way more vocal about that because they are, because maybe of social media, because their parents have kind of said something to them along those lines. I know
Hmm.
for me, it wasn't like that. Your teacher said, and if your teacher said, done deal.
Yep.
I don't want to hear about it. That's not quite how it works anymore, right? If
Yeah.
a teacher calls, the parent wants more information.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're not going to side with the teacher sometimes, but want more information. Well, when was it due? When did you tell them? What did they say? How did they react? Like, they just want a lot more
Hmm.
information, right? And so it sometimes isn't totally the kid. And so when a staff member reacts to a student in a certain way and the student kind of comes back with that same tone, they don't like that because they're supposed to just be yes ma'am, no sir. I don't necessarily disagree with the kid sometimes.
Yeah.
This is maybe my bad, but my toxic trait is I don't think the adults are always right,
Yeah.
you
No,
know?
and I'm with you on that. I feel like
Now,
so
hold up.
we.
I will say to the kid when they come talk to me, hey, there was a different way you could have handled it. And they are an adult. And
Yes,
you
of course.
shouldn't be speaking. I mean, I just to preface it out there, I do have a conversation with the
Yes.
student internally. Maybe 12-year-old Jenny that has, dealt with adults in her life that were not the most pleasant. I kind of in my head, I'm like, you're not wrong, kid.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. But I do talk to them about that, because it's still not okay theoretically, right?
Yeah. Like I always lead with respect. Like you gotta lead with respect. And my thing, when the kids are a little disrespectful toward me, because it happens, they'll raise
Mhm,
their voice, they'll shout, they'll do something that's
mhm,
disrespectful, and I'm like, wait, hold on, have I ever been disrespectful to you? Please tell me when I've been disrespectful to you. Please tell me. Is there a time? No, no, I've never been right. I've never been disrespectful to
mhm,
you, and so let's just keep that same thing, right? Like
mhm,
I'm not disrespectful to you. You don't have to be disrespectful to me. We could
mhm.
just have a conversation. You could tell me what happened
Yeah.
without raising your voice or being mad at me because I'm not listening to you, or just tell me what happened out of, and we're gonna mutually respect each other. I've
Mhm,
had this conversation so many times with kids when they come like hot and I'm like, oh, hold on, whoa, 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 hold on.
mhm,
We're not here to be disrespectful. I'm just here to find out what happened. I would love to hear your side of the story
mhm.
because I've only heard this side of the story.
Yeah.
So I just need to hear, calm, in a calm manner. When you're ready, I'm not going to force you to tell me yet. When you're ready, when you're regulated, you tell me and then
Yeah.
I'll listen because that's what I'm here for. So it's always about that respect. I leave with respect and think times are different. Times are different.
Mhm,
And you could fight it. You could say, you know what? Back when I was a kid, it was like this way. And, parents were able to control their kids. And when the teacher said this thing, nobody questioned what the teacher said. And people just fell in line. You could still hold that belief
mhm.
and fight it, but you're going to lose that battle. You're just going to lose that battle
It's just
because,
different.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's different. It's different.
Different.
I had I've had parents, I meet with parents all the time. I've had parents totally question everything I do, everything I say. Totally, everything. It wasn't like, well, it was like, this is what happened. Okay, well, that's not what my kid told me. Okay,
Mhm.
well, let me just, okay, I get it. What did your kid say? Well, I'm not going to share what my kid said because that's a private conversation between me and my kid, and so I'm not going to tell you. Okay, well, let me tell you what I saw
Mhm,
happen, and then we'll come up, and then let me tell you how we handle it here at the school.
mhm.
And I explain what happened. Okay, this is what happened. And I've had that happen numerous times to me where, parents are like, I'm here to defend my kid. I'm here to defend my kid, and it's all about my kid, and that's all that matters. And I'm like, okay, I get it. And I'm here to keep everybody safe at the school. Everybody here, including your kid, I'm here to keep them safe. And so my goal is to keep everybody safe. And so this is what we're doing to keep your son or daughter safe, as well as the classroom, as well as the teacher, and as well as the school. That's what we're doing. And so, like, I could leave. I could be like, you know what, this parent is so disrespectful. This parent is so disrespectful. I can't believe this parent. And then be all in my head. And every time I see this parent, I don't say hi in the morning because I hate this parent. I hate this parent. I could do all of that, like, oh, I can't believe that he or she disagreed with me, and like, oh, I can't stand this parent. Or I could be like, okay, it is what it is. How do I figure it out? How do I make this situation where everybody's safe? How do I explain my point of view? Um, and how do I, calm this situation down?
Mhm.
How do I regulate my own emotions in this meeting? Because those are trigger, like boom,
Mhm.
boom, boom. All those things that you were telling me, that could trigger me if I allow it.
Mhm.
And so that's where I'm at with that. And that's just the reality of 2024.
Sure, sure. I mean, I think every interaction's a learning moment, right? It
Hmm.
could have gone well, but like it could always be better.
Yeah.
Or I could have expressed myself better, or maybe depending if it really got me, triggered. Sometimes the emails, right? Everybody gets a little gutsier when it's an email
Oh
versus.
yeah.
I actually, to be honest, yeah, there was an interaction sometime a couple months ago, maybe parent emailed, and I was like, okay, calm down, like that. That was my reaction,
Mhm.
and I actually went to my supervisor, my boss, and I was like, hey, I got this email, just trying to see, poke your, brain about what to do with it. And she was like, I often find that if you call it, the conversation goes very different. And I
Yes.
was like, I was kind of like not wanting to, but I did it anyway. And I called, and absolutely the conversation went completely the right way.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know that it would have gone that way had I replied with an email, because
Yeah.
obviously I heard it, and I think it was maybe meant in a certain tone.
Mhm.
Therefore, this parent would have maybe heard it, my reply, in that tone, like I was just retaliating, if you will, back.
Yeah.
So it ended up being this great conversation. Everyone was fine. She understood where I was coming from. And so for me, that moment was like, all right, just got to suck it up and have that phone call, even though you think it's going to like not be pleasant, right? Because I guess, 90% of the time, once they hear your tone and your side, I think more times than not, it goes well.
Yeah.
Sure, there's those moments where it doesn't, and then we can deal with those separately. But I think more times than not, any conversation, I've been kind of like, I don't want to have this conversation with this person. It
Mhm.
ends up being okay, because I think they hear from you your genuine care and concern, for their child, which is at the bottom for parents. What they want to know, they want to know that their kid is just as important as all the other ones, right? And once they hear that genuinely from you, I think it's helpful,
Yeah.
right? I think
Yeah.
like kids, parents can also smell disingenuousness a mile
Immediately.
away.
Yeah, immediately. Absolutely.
Hmm.
So next school year, 2024,
Hmm.
what are you doing differently? What's going to change for you so that you have a more productive year? I don't know, more I have an idea of what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to do, but I want to hear what you have to want to do. Yeah, what are you going to do next year?
Part of my, I'm like I said, I'm ending the year. I'm, still trying to like, I'm just emailing like answers to worksheets for the kids to review. Tomorrow's my final. So, I mean, I am leaning towards I definitely know I will be changing homework. How? I don't know yet,
Yeah.
right? I don't know if I will grade for accuracy, which I kind of don't want to do because that's never been my style. And I think there's a benefit, and I think there's a helpfulness to having kids do homework without the fear of making mistakes and being marked off for it. Because if I'm just teaching you a new lesson, how fair is it that I'm going to take points off that you got it wrong? You're going to get things wrong. It's a given. It's new.
Can you accept the idea that you shouldn't give homework?
Um, Not totally yet. I'm not saying I won't, but not totally yet. I'm not. I'm not taking it off as an option. I'm not. I think it's very doable. I don't. My school would not necessarily have an issue with it,
Yeah.
so I'm not worried about that. It's more about me, in the sense of, is that really the best thing for them? And if it is, I'm fine with it. I just have to like sit and think, sit and process. How do I then make it work? Because there is an expectation at the end of it all that they are able to pass this final, right? So I have to tweak with that. I'm not against it, but so that's why I said I have to figure out how I'm dealing with homework, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that means. I think the other thing is I need to. I think as a dean, I overall do a good job connecting with kids, but I would love to see an improvement on. I think the title just by default already makes, I walk into a room
Yeah.
just to say hi, and I can see it's in some classrooms it's a palpable like holding of breath, like who's she here for,
Hmm.
and I can see it to the point where I'm like, I'm just saying hi guys, that's all, just hi. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, hi, Miss H. And kids will be like, oh, I thought you were coming for me. I'm like, why, did you
Yeah.
do something? They're like, no. I'm like, why are you worried?
Hmm.
So I think I want to find a way to improve that. I don't think it's ever going to go away. The title dean
Yeah.
is kind of already a scary concept for kids.
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate, part of the job, if you will. But I can always improve on making more connections with them. Right.
Yeah.
I think I did okay, but I can definitely make more improvement on that. So I think it's just a matter. I think in the classroom interacting with my kids, I'm fine. I don't think that's the part that's an issue. Thankfully, I think because it goes back to relational teaching. I want to connect. I want to have relationships with them. I know they are more than a student, right? So, yay for being on the play. Awesome job in the musical. Good job on that championship game.
Yeah.
Awesome talent show performance. Oh my God, your drawing's great. Like all of those things that make them more than my student. The
Yeah.
whole person is neat. So I just have to figure out this homework thing. This homework thing is the only thing. By the way, and that gets connected to organizational skills, right? Because I again have kids. It's the same strata, right? The same paradigm of I have the kids that have it together. If I ask them to pull out their binder, everything is nicely
Yeah.
organized. And then I have the kid who just shoves everything in the
Right.
in the backpack or in the pocket of one binder, and they can't find anything, right? So yeah, I'm just learning. I'm trying to learn myself how to be that teacher for them, which is not necessarily going to be the teacher I have been for 20 some odd years, right?
Yeah.
So that's my homework for the summer.
For me, I'm there's like a big change for me. So they're gonna split me either between two or three schools.
Oh wow.
So right now I'm at one school, and I've been at one school for the last 3 years.
Get
And
out.
so,
Is that normal?
well, they cut like in my position, they cut, I don't know, like 120 assistant principals in my position. Now we mainly deal with special education duties, but
Mm-hmm.
because there's no generic assistant principal at the school that I work at, so I'm doing like double job here. I'm doing the generic assistant principal plus the special ed assistant principal stuff, and I deal with all behavior at my school. And so
Mm-hmm.
for the last 3 years, I've established myself at this school. Like, okay, Mr. Vergara runs the behavior and everything. I've established myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of the cuts, they're like, okay, well, this school right here is going to have a 2 day and a half position here. So you can either stay at this school and go to another school 2.5 days, or we're going to split you between three schools. And most likely you will not be at one school.
Wow.
So then that's like, and they're like, okay, and then most likely you'll be focused mainly on special education stuff. So just special education things, that's what you're going to do. And so like that idea of me not dealing so much with like interacting with the students, but just only
Mm-hmm.
special education. And um, I don't know if I like that idea. And so it's like, okay, if you're at two schools, you have to somehow be able to have your clerk help you so much with the special education to the calendaring and all that IEP stuff, and you're just showing up to IEP so you could observe teachers and you could go deal with behavior at two
Yeah.
schools,
Yeah.
or you just say, you know what, I'm just going to focus on special education and not deal with anything else. You don't deal with nothing else, just special education stuff.
Mhm.
And so IEPs and setting up
Mhm.
meetings and, like all that stuff.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm at right now. And I don't even know what school I'm going to be at next year. So I'm like, okay, they're going to put me wherever. Haven't got my assignment yet, and school's going to end in 4 days or something like that.
Yeah.
I haven't got my assignment. So that's where I'm at with that. And so I have to make a decision. Now, what I want to do is be so good with my clerk and my special ed clerk and teach the clerk, okay, this is what we're going to do to be successful so
Mhm.
that I could do other things at this school.
Mhm.
I want to be if I'm at two schools, then I'm going to try my very best to, okay, help me out here so I could do these other things that I'm really
Mhm.
good at. I'm really good at these other things, but I won't be able to show that. I won't be able to show that if I'm stuck in my office just doing
Yeah.
IEPs, and I can't be able to, I'll be stuck.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with that. And I actually I applied to become a principal. I applied to become a principal, and I got an interview, and I went to interview, but I didn't get the job. And I got a
Mhm.
call from the director, and they're like, we really liked how you answered the questions, but you
Mhm.
never finished them. You said you did all these things, this, you did that, you did this, but you never said what was the result of your actions. You didn't say, as a result of all these things, a poor behavior decreased this
Right.
percentage amount.
Right.
You worked with parents, you told us all the things you worked with parents, but then how, at the end, what was the result of all that work? You never gave us the result. So it's like that star interview method, like with situation, task, action, and what is the result? He's like, you never gave results. You just always left us hanging all the time.
I mean, they could have said, by the way, they could have also been like, and how did that result?
Oh, it was a tough interview. I'll tell you what, it was a really tough interview, man. It was like there was two
I
directors.
love people that make, but I see this is the thing that drives me bananas. Like, it's an obvious question if you want that answer
Yeah,
then go, hey, John,
yeah,
so how did that end up being?
yeah,
Did behavior improve? Like,
yeah.
but no, they're like,
Nothing. Yeah.
okay, he's not going to tell us. We're not going to ask. We're good.
Yeah. And so it was,
Done.
it was a tough interview. And so I was like, and the reason why I did that was because, what, I was like, what, screw it. I'd rather not be stuck in the office just doing IEPs.
Sure.
I want
Sure.
to just, I'll go all the way. I'll just be the principal. And so, but I didn't get the job. And so, this is where I'm at. I'm like, okay, what do I do now? What am I gonna do? There was a point where I even considered going back to the classroom. I was like, screw it. I'll just go back to the classroom, work with 22 students at elementary school. Sometimes it's as low as, like, at our school, it's as low as like 18 students. Have 18 kids in my classroom, and that's all I have to deal with. Just 18 kids.
Mhm.
How easy for me would that be to just do? And I was almost like, that's what I'll do. And so, and that was just the bitterness in me, the bitterness of, like, just like, screw it, like,
Yep. Yep.
the bitterness in me.
Mhm.
And so that's where I'm at right now. And we'll see what happens. I don't have an assignment yet, and I'll find my assignment out, I think, at the beginning of July. And, you know, who knows what, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm most effective when it comes to, behavior, and
Mhm.
I don't know, man. Coming up with systems to improve the
Mhm.
school,
Mhm.
relationship building. These are all my, like,
Yep.
I'm really good at, and I might not be able to use my skills.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's my next year, and I don't know. It's very up in the air.
I think we have a lot of processing to do for different reasons, you and
Oh
I.
yeah, oh
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
I don't know. I
I, I'm,
believe.
I'm at that point, I'm 47. I've been at my school for 24 years. I'm not ready to like step back and take a moment, but I do catch myself going, okay, the classroom is kind of, I've done my time, and I can see that I'm feeling that way, right? I'm still
Yeah,
willing, like willing sounds terrible. I'm still good in the classroom, and I'm okay probably for a few more years.
yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, I know this is gonna,
Mhm,
I'm not gonna be as effective in the classroom. Maybe that's part of this conversation in some
mhm,
kind of way, as I have been. But I do like interacting with the students. And so the dean part of my job I totally love, because it's about people, it's about connecting.
Yeah.
It's just, some I have a student who just wants to come talk to me about her, like, boy life, right?
Yeah.
Miss H, I'm talking to him again. Oh, I'm not talking to him
Yeah.
anymore. You know?
Yeah.
And just being like, okay, and then I have kids that just are going through a lot, and if there's a safe space in my office for them to just sit and de-stress and share or don't share, I that part I'm cool with right now, right? So
Mhm.
I know I'm at a point where I'm like, I need to start thinking about what's plan B, so that when I'm at a point where I want to step out of the classroom,
Yeah.
I have a plan B to present to my school and say, here's what I can do
Yeah.
beyond the classroom. So I get you. I understand.
And I've been working with kids since I was 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Since 18 years old, working at playground
Mm-hmm.
supervisor, at a school, working in group homes, working as a one-on-one. Before I even became a teacher, I was
Mm-hmm.
working with kids. So 18. I'm gonna be 47, right? So that what is that? Like 18, 28, 38, 40, that's like 30 years. That's like 30 years working with kids. I
Mm-hmm.
have 30 years of experience working with kids, and especially kids with difficult behavior.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing these, a lot of people at work have been retiring at 55, at 56,
Mm-hmm.
retiring, saying like, peace, it's been great. I'm retiring. I'm like, whoa, like, you're only 55. Like, you're 55. And they're like, you know what? It's just getting too crazy. It's just getting too crazy. And I'm retiring. And I'm like, wow, you're retiring at 55. That's awesome. And so at 47, I'm like, damn, that is right around the corner. 55 is not, that's right around the
10
corner.
years goes by pretty fast.
Yeah,
It
that's
doesn't
right.
sound like it, but the older we get, the quicker it goes.
Yeah, I'm like, dang, that's right around the corner. Are you willing to step away from all of this at 55? Are you willing to step away from all of this at 55? That's was that 8 years, yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just a thought that goes through my head. Like, and I'm not calling it quits. Like, I'm fed up. I'm like, oh, I'm so stressed. I'm not super stressed out. I'm not like, oh, these kids. I'm not like, I can't take this anymore. But the idea of retirement and not doing other things that I enjoy, and not having to be like 66 or like some crazy age,
Right.
where, being able to have my health, because this is what my principal is retiring. And I feel like she could probably go another 5, 6 years, but
Mm-hmm.
she's like, no, my health is important. My family is important. I'm going to retire. And I'm like, wow, I don't know what to think about that. Like, you could
Yeah.
go another 5, 6 years, but like, you're saying that's it because of these reasons, and I respect that.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think
and
all of that ends up becoming like personal choices, right? Like,
yeah,
um, I don't know. I feel like, not your principal, but like people that are like, I'm out. This is getting too crazy, or I can't handle it anymore. I feel like sometimes they also don't find ways to release. They just go from one stressful situation, let's say for them being the classroom or the school, and then they go into maybe another stressful situation, which is home life, right? Like, not even in a bad way, just like stressful in the sense of like their lives are busy. We had
yeah,
kids and we got to take them to point A to point B, and then I have to make dinner, make sure they're fed, and repeat, right?
hmm
Because our life
hmm
is very repeat. Like, it's this routine Monday through Friday, kind of, even the weekends, Monday through Sunday. It becomes this like routine, and so if you don't also find ways to help yourself
yeah,
de-stress in some way, then you're always stressed. Your body's always like, ugh, right? So, which is really important to find ways to release, right? Go for a walk. And I get it. People are like, it's not easy, or I don't have the time, but we have to find ways to release.
hmm
Something that I just thought about coincidentally as I was walking out of school is I'm very much into like doing a gratitude journal in the morning, right? Just something basic, 3 things I appreciate, 3 things I'm looking forward to, kind of thing. But I just thought, and it hadn't dawned on me. I think next year I'm going to do like a school journal, where, because I have these random thoughts, but I never write them down. right?
Mhm.
And sometimes they're positive ones, like, oh, I could do this next time that this situation pops up. I
Yeah.
just kind of say that to myself, and I have never written it down. Or even maybe a negative thing, like maybe there's a negative interaction. How can I, this happened and I didn't like the way I reacted to it. How can I make that connection better? Even
Yeah.
tomorrow or like in a week, I feel like writing it down or recording myself on my phone, because there's those voice memos, right? Could be something that's beneficial to just process every
Yeah.
day. But like I know for me, it's not always easy to at school to do that. It's like I'm typing an email to a parent and then a kid comes in, oh, my math teacher said I need to come talk to you. All right, what's up? Tell me what's going on. That takes up some time. Then I got to go touch base with my boss. Then I got to go teach my, it's like, and then
Mhm.
the day's over and I'm like, whoo,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know. I need to write just something down maybe.
Yeah,
That,
I when I do TikToks, like,
mm-hmm,
uh, and there's a lot of TikToks I don't even post, but like
mm-hmm,
I just write. I
mm-hmm,
sit down, I go in my room, and I'm like, okay, let's think about this.
mm-hmm,
And I sit there and I just let it come, and I start typing. I'm like, and I start to work my idea, and I'm like, okay, this is a good idea. Let me just keep adding. Let me keep adding,
mm-hmm.
and sometimes I'll make a video, and then I won't even post it. I'm like, okay, I just needed to get that out.
Yeah.
I just needed to get that out, and
Mm-hmm,
yeah, I do that to work through ideas,
mm-hmm,
to work my craft a little better, like to become sharper.
mm-hmm,
Um, for de-stress for me, I would like to run. I work out, but like typing and writing and coming up with ideas quietly in my room by myself really helps out a
mm-hmm,
lot. And like I said, sometimes I post them, sometimes I don't.
mm-hmm.
And but it helps. It
Yeah.
helps. So maybe yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Definitely a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, Jenny, thank you so much for being on the. I felt like
Thanks
this
for
was
the
like a therapy session for both of us.
But see, this is why I'm telling you, I want to be in a room full of like educators, not just for my school. Because I mean, the other thing is, when in the same community or environment, the lens is sometimes the same,
Yeah.
and being able to talk to people from other experiences, other environments is super helpful because yes, in some ways my population is different, but in so many ways they're the same. Like kids are
Mhm.
kids and they deal with similar issues, and in some cases different aspects of your kids' lives are harder than my kids' lives, and sometimes they're gonna
Yeah.
kind of blend together, and
Mhm.
so it is helpful, but it really is something that for this whole year I'm like I need to figure out how I'm teaching
Yeah.
next year,
Yeah.
because it's again not personal, but sometimes it feels like I'm not doing right, it's
Yeah.
not me. But it's for them, right?
Yeah.
So but it's for them because I do want them to do. I think the frustration, it's kind of like I tell my goddaughter when she gets mad at her folks, right? I always say, hey, everything your parents do comes from love,
Yeah.
right? They love you so much, they are afraid you're going to do something wrong or bad. They love you so much, they are overprotecting. Like it all comes from love. And that's kind of how I feel about my kids, my students. It's like my frustration is I'm not frustrating at them. I'm just frustrated because it's like, how do I make sure you get this lesson in your head so that you are successful, so that you
Yeah.
can get into like the next level of Spanish that you
Mhm.
want to be in? That's where the frustration kicks in. So
Yeah.
I just need to figure that out.
You got to start your own podcast and invite just different educators. I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell you, hey, I'm gonna tell you that like this is podcast for me 31.
Uh-huh.
This is podcast 31. Talking to 31 different educators from all different backgrounds, from different parts of the country, in different positions, teachers, deans, assistant principals, special ed advocates. Man, my perspective has changed over the 30 uh podcasts, just talking to people and just hearing what they
Mhm.
have to say. And I'm like, okay, I get what you are saying.
Mhm.
I get it. Um, it broadened my view, right? Because I my view was very like narrow, right? Like this is what it is, and then I hear like, okay, well, this is how it is in this area, and in this area, this is what we do, and
Mhm.
like, okay, I can see how that works. Oh, I see, and it's broadened my view.
Mhm.
and it's helped me understand other perspectives and other people. And like I talked to somebody recently about suspension. Like they're like, yeah, we suspend. Yeah, we suspend
Yeah.
here. And they explained it, and I was like, okay, maybe my school, we can't suspend so much in LAUSD. Like we're
Mhm.
not real. We're our hands are tied.
Mhm.
But he's like, oh, we suspend here. I'm like, okay, tell me about it. Oh, this is what it is, and this is how it goes. And
Yep.
okay, all right, okay, I hear you. And so for me, this podcast is not about who's right or who's wrong, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
this is let's talk. And this is, so like I said, 30 different people I've talked to,
Mhm.
and it's really broadened my perspective on things and education, and it's helped me see things in a different light. And maybe you start a podcast, just even if it's for your own personal, like like. And I don't even get a lot of views. I'm gonna be honest. When it comes to YouTube, if you
Uh,
look it up, I don't get a lot of views. When it comes when it comes to YouTube, but man, just talking to somebody about the craft, about
mhm.
education, like when do you ever sit for an hour and just talk
Just
about.
talk shop, basically.
Yeah, when do you do
Mhm.
that? Like
No,
it's very
never.
rare, right? Never.
Everybody's busy. Everybody's like, I gotta go. I gotta go get papers.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. You should think about starting one and just talking to people, and it's helpful.
Mhm. Thank
It's
you.
helpful. Yeah,
I'll process that too while I'm at it.
yeah. Oh, Jenny, thank you so much for
Thank
being on the
you. Thanks
podcast. I
again.
greatly
Always.
appreciate it.